पता नहीं जादू हुआ, दूसरे नंबर पे पहुंच गए।
मोदी है तो मुमकिन है।
तो
अध्यक्ष जी, आपकी गालियों को, आपके आरोपों को इन कोटि कोटि भारतीयों से होकर के गुजरना पड़ेगा, जिनको दशकों तक मुसीबतें में जिंदगी जीने के लिए तुमने मजबूर किया था। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, कुछ लोग अपने लिए, अपने परिवार के लिए बहुत कुछ तबाह करने पर लगे हुए हैं, अपने लिए, अपने परिवार के लिए जी रहे हैं। मोदी तो 25 करोड़ देशवासियों के परिवार का सदस्य है। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, 140 करोड़ देशवासियों के आशीर्वाद, ये मेरा सबसे बड़ा सुरक्षा कवच है। और गालियों के शस्त्र से, झूठ के शस्त्रास्त्रों से इस सुरक्षा कवच को कभी तुम भेद नहीं सकते हो। वो विश्वास का सुरक्षा कवच है।
कुछ दिन पहले ये हिंडनबर्ग रिपोर्ट आई, उसमें लिखा था कि अदानी जी की हिंदुस्तान के बाहर शेल कंपनीज हैं। ये जो शेल कंपनीज हैं, सबसे पहला सवाल है, ये हैं किसकी? ये किसकी है मॉरिशस में जो शेल कंपनीज हैं? और ये जो हजारों करोड़ रुपया ये शेल कंपनीज हिंदुस्तान में भेज रही हैं, ये किसका पैसा है? और क्या ये काम अदानी जी फ्री में कर रहे हैं?
पिछले 10 साल में 2014 के पहले 2004 से 14 भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था खस्ता हाल हो गई। निराशा नहीं होगी तो क्या होगा? 10 साल में महंगाई डबल डिजिट रही, और इसलिए कुछ अगर अच्छा होता है तो निराशा और उभर करके आती है। 4 से 14 आजादी के इतिहास में सबसे घोटालों का दशक रहा, सबसे घोटाला।
अदानी जी की इतनी बिजनेस एक्यूमेंट कहां से आई? इतने अलग अलग सेक्टर्स में अदानी जी ने कैसे सक्सेस प्राप्त की? अदानी जी के बारे में पूरी दुनिया को स्टडी करनी चाहिए, हार्वर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी को स्टडी करनी चाहिए कि पॉलिटिक्स के बीच में और बिजनेस के बीच में कैसा रिश्ता होता है। इंडिया इज अ केस स्टडी एंड प्राइम मिनिस्टर नरेंद्र मोदी शुड बी गिवन अ गोल्ड मेडल इन दिस।
यहाँ कुछ लोगों को हार्वर्ड स्टडी का बड़ा क्रेज है। हार्वर्ड स्टडी है, बड़ा क्रेज है। कोरोना काल में ऐसा ही कहा गया था और कांग्रेस ने कहा था कि भारत की बर्बादी पर हार्वर्ड में केस स्टडी होगी, ऐसा कहा था। और कल फिर सदन में हार्वर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी में स्टडी की बात कल फिर हुई। लेकिन माननीय अध्यक्ष जी, बीते वर्षों में हार्वर्ड में एक बहुत बढ़िया स्टडी हुई है, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट स्टडी हुई है। और उस स्टडी है, उसका टॉपिक क्या था मैं जरूर सदन को बताना चाहूंगा, और ये स्टडी हो चुकी है। स्टडी है द राइज एंड डिक्लाइन ऑफ India's Congress Party.
Meanwhile, while all of this was happening, Rahul Gandhi was seen chanting Adani, Adani during the Prime Minister's speech. He now said that the Prime Minister should order a probe into the allegations against Adani, and why was he completely silent on the name of Adani? Listen in.
No, in fact, Prime Minister was shell-shocked. He was in shock and there was no answer. एक जवाब नहीं दिया प्रधानमंत्री जी ने और मैंने कोई कॉम्प्लिकेटेड क्वेश्चन तो नहीं पूछा है. मैंने ये पूछा है आपके साथ कितनी बार गए हैं, वहां कितनी बार मिले हैं. तो सिंपल से सवाल थे, जवाब नहीं दिया. इट रिवील्स द ट्रूथ. हिंदी ये मतलब स्पीच से सच्चाई दिखती है कि अच्छा इंक्वायरी की बात नहीं हुई. अगर मित्र नहीं है तो ये कहते ठीक है मैं इंक्वायरी करा देता हूं. इंक्वायरी की बात नहीं हुई. डिफेंस इंडस्ट्री है, वहां पे शेल कंपनीज हैं, बेनामी पैसा घूम रहा है, उसके बारे में प्रधानमंत्री ने कुछ नहीं कहा. तो मतलब क्लियर है कि प्रधानमंत्री उनकी रक्षा कर रहे हैं, उनको प्रोटेक्ट कर रहे हैं.
देश के लोगों को भरोसा है मोदी पर.
हाँ,
इस पर आप क्या?
नहीं वो तो ठीक है. मतलब मेरा कहना है कि ये नेशनल सिक्योरिटी का मामला है, हिंदुस्तान के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का मामला है. प्रधानमंत्री को ये कह देना चाहिए ठीक है हम इंक्वायरी करेंगे, चेक कराएंगे क्या है इसमें. बहुत बड़ा घपला है, मगर वो भी नहीं बोला. तो जरूर वो उनको प्रोटेक्ट करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. मैं समझता हूं, मतलब उसका कारण भी है. थैंक यू.
क्या होगा फिर आगे?
I want to cut across to my colleague Rahul Srivastava, our National Affairs Editor, who joins us. Also, Maushmi Singh, tracking the Congress as well as all the Parliament updates. Rahul, what do you make of the Prime Minister's speech? We've seen it before, fiery, scathing, top-notch in terms of a political debate, in terms of political content, but completely skirting off even addressing, forget about the Congress questions or Rahul Gandhi's charges, but even mentioning the name of Adani.
Preeti, the address of the president and the debate that ensues usually is an opportunity for political parties to deliver their point of view for the government's their achievements and their political perspective also, and similarly for the opposition their points they want to make across. If you see the Prime Minister's speech, the Prime Minister used the opportunity to showcase his government, and in showcasing present a contrast that in this period this was what achieved while this was what is happening. Our government now, ED has managed to unite people are fighting against ED, while when India needed energy there was a coal scam, when India needed telecom there was a 2G scam. So he did that political push that political agenda and achievements encapsulated. I think if Rahul Gandhi wanted to discredit Narendra Modi and flag a point, he used that opportunity on the other day. And Narendra Modi has countered him in a way, because the attack was that this government has done little to help the poor in the country, to help the middle classes and others. It has been a government of the rich and the very rich. In that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has addressed. But if one expected a direct point-to-point by point rebuttal to what Rahul Gandhi charges made, it was not going to happen, Preeti, because in the afternoon we had received the news that a lot of the comments by Rahul Gandhi, they were expunged by the Lok Sabha Secretariat. Expunging means the Prime Minister may not be responding because they are not part of the debate. But I think if you see the debate, the Prime Minister's address, I think what has eventually happened, that the two gladiators, Rahul Gandhi, eventually at the end of the day, what do you remember from this debate? Rahul Gandhi and Narendra Modi. So they have eventually narrowed the battle between each other as the two challengers. And I think that does help the Congress and that suits the BJP politically. So that is why Modi talked about only the faults of the Congress, the failures of the Congress, the falterings, and then eventually showcased his achievements. There was only one mention, Preeti, of what Rahul Gandhi said, that Rahul Gandhi contradicts himself when he says that India has not done very well, and as far as the Committee of Nations is concerned, and he said that while Rahul Gandhi charges his government, that he's now pushing other governments to make decisions for him.
You know, Rahul, I'm going to come right back to you because it's interesting. Not that the Prime Minister was going to address a point-by-point rebuttal of possibly what Rahul Gandhi said or what the Congress charges are. But the fact is the Adani story is playing out in public domain. There have been questions that have been raised in Parliament other than the Congress as well. Interesting that the Prime Minister skirting that issue. And when you talk about the battle being pitched between Rahul Gandhi and Narendra Modi, I don't know how happy the opposition is going to be about that in days to come. But I'll pull in my colleague Moshmi as well, who's been tracking the Parliament. What's the Congress strategy now, Moshmi? Scathing attack, tearing into the Congress, and somewhere down the line, talking about the development that has come in since 2024, comparing it to the Congress era, which is indirectly or directly a slap on the Congress and an answer to Rahul Gandhi.
Preeti, the Prime Minister is an excellent orator, there's no doubt about it. My reading of the entire slugfest that really happened, yesterday's day was Rahul Gandhi's day and today's moment was the Prime Minister's, it was his day. But at the end of it all, if you see, the big takeaway is that the Congress managed to get the government on the mat till yesterday. Even in the morning today, there were several interjections by the chairman and Piyush Goyal in the Lok Sabha when Kharge was speaking, and he said a line that speaking the truth is not anti-national, I hope. So when Dhankar reminded him that it's about national interest that we should be talking about. And yesterday Rahul Gandhi asked very uncomfortable questions. He asked direct, hard-hitting questions, and the government, in fact, yesterday he was allowed to speak. He made that speech. It went live. It was on the papers. It was in the headlines. By the time it was expunged, it was already too late. It was already published. So there has been some rethinking in the government. In the Lok Sabha, there was nobody was allowed to even mention Adani or link him to the Prime Minister. So that's a big takeaway, I think. And
okay, well, the Congress would be happy. Okay, the Congress would be happy because they seem to have set the agenda, at least where the Parliament is concerned. Come tomorrow, because Rahul, I'll bring you in for a quick comment in on this. Interesting that the Prime Minister, of course, refusing to take or address or validate the charges of Rahul Gandhi or the Congress, but also refusing to even address the issue of Adani because it's a story which is playing out in public domain. Tomorrow is his address in Rajya Sabha. You think it'll be more mellow, less political?
No, Preeti, I certainly don't think so. I think it will be a repeat. Remember one thing, the moment Prime Minister on the floor of Parliament speaks anything and mentions that word Adani, I think it will endorse what the Congress is trying to do. And that is why the Prime Minister will not get into a direct slugfest over this issue. The Prime Minister's strategy, if you see the speech, is very distinct. What he is trying to show is there are two sets of charges. The charge is that he is friendly with Adani and the billionaires, while the public is suffering. He is trying to build a narrative that I have worked for the billion people in this country and not bothered about replying about the billionaires. I think it's a contest. There is a sense of sidestepping something which is there in your face. But eventually, I think at one level, there is one element which I will say. See, the president's speech does offer the prime minister or any prime minister an opportunity to sidestep questions. You see, since it is not part of the president's debate, Rahul Gandhi raised the point, knowing fully well that this point will not be answered. And the Congress is banking on the fact that the prime minister will not answer it. The prime minister is not answering it. And that's why I say, though it becomes a picture, when we put it together, eventually both the Prime Minister and Rahul Gandhi has served their political purposes. These speeches could have been election speeches in some political rally ground.
Well, you're right there. They both sounded like election speeches, but we've heard election speeches on the floor of the Parliament, especially from the Prime Minister there. Meanwhile, appreciate both of you for joining us. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Moshmi. On the other hand, the Prime Minister also took a jibe at Rahul Gandhi over his Bharat Jodo Yatra finale in Kashmir. This is what he had to say.
लाल चौक में पोस्टर्स लगाए, दीवारों पे लिखा है, जिसने अपनी मां का दूध पिया हो वो श्रीनगर के लाल चौक में आए, आकर के भारत का तिरंगा झंडा फहराएं, और अगर वो जिंदा वापस जाएगा तो आतंकवादी उसे इनाम देंगे। आतंकवादी काउंट खोल करके सुन ले। 26 जनवरी को परसों, अब चंद घंटे बाकी हैं, लाल चौक में फैसला हो जाएगा किसने अपनी मां का दूध पिया।
जम्मू कश्मीर की भी चर्चा हुई और जो अभी अभी जम्मू कश्मीर घूम कर के आए उन्होंने देखा होगा कितने आन बान शान के साथ आप जम्मू कश्मीर में जा सकते, घूम सकते, फिर सकते। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, पिछली शताब्दी के उत्तरार्ध में, आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, पिछली शताब्दी के उत्तरार्ध में मैं भी जम्मू कश्मीर में यात्रा लेके गया था और लाल चौक में तिरंगा फहराने का संकल्प लेकर के चला था। और तब आतंकवादियों ने पोस्टर लगाए थे, आतंकवादियों ने पोस्टर लगाए थे उस समय और कहा था कि देखते हैं किसने अपनी मां का दूध पिया है जो लाल चौक में आके तिरंगा फहराता है। पोस्टर लगे थे और उस दिन वो 24 जनवरी थी, मैंने जम्मू के अंदर बड़ी सभा में कहा था, अध्यक्ष जी मैं पिछली शताब्दी की बात कर रहा हूं, और तब मैंने कहा था आतंकवादी कान खोल करके सुन ले। उस दिन मैंने कहा था आतंकवादी कान खोल करके सुन ले। 26 जनवरी को ठीक 11 बजे मैं लाल चौक पहुंचूंगा, बिना सिक्योरिटी आऊंगा, बुलेट प्रूफ जैकेट के बिना आऊंगा और फैसला लाल चौक में होगा किसने अपनी मां का दूध पिया।
All right, with that, viewers, I'm going to go into a quick break to stay with us. On the other side is our fact check segment.
Over 3 decades, Business Today has delivered news, views and analysis like no other. Now, Business Today presents the future.
Could I request Mr. Arun Puri, our Editor-in-Chief, to come up on the stage with the Finance Minister as we unveil the anniversary issue of Business Today. This is the 31st anniversary of India's #1 news magazine.
BT produces a cover with an AI avatar of Pichai on its 31st anniversary issue. Visit businesstoday.in/subscribe and subscribe now.
Mr. Pandey, can you explain to our audience what is going forward the disinvestment approach and philosophy going to be? The government has to be complemented for Air India. You also and other people in the government have spoken about why BSNL is not going to be disinvested. But for the audience, beyond the revenue receipts that you are penciling in from divestment, what's the big approach? Not many companies left to be sold and therefore rely on dividends and FPOs?
I think if you really look at holistically, out of the CPSCs, there are two streams of incomes that the government receives. One is, of course, the dividend. While they are, the government money is invested in them, there has to be a return, and which comes to them, you know, from profits, certain proportion comes in form of dividend. Now, of course, when we sell our equity, then it translates into disinvestment receipts upfront, and the current year dividend subsequently, and the subsequent dividends in future years, they are sacrificed. So it's in a way, you are upfronting those dividends by making a thing, and then this money is again reinvested, as you know, in capex and so on. Now, the strategy is a calibrated disinvestment strategy. It has two legs. One is that while we keep our value in our enterprises up and running, we have several listed companies, several listed banks in which millions of shareholders are also invested. large institutional investors are there as well. So it's very important that the companies keep doing well and the corporate governance and profitability, return on capital employed, and so on is looked after. Also related to that is also the capex. As you know that there is a capex from the CPSC which has not been counted, what Somnathan has said, 10 lakh crore. 10 lakh crore is the government capex directly. 3.7 lakh crore additional is the capex, which is the grant which goes from the central government, and it helps create the capital assets. Additionally, 4.88 lakh crores, roughly about 5 lakh crores will be the capex from the CPSCs going forward. So if you really count the total capex, it's 18.5 lakh crores, which comes to about 6.2% of GDP, which is a very, very large sum.
Which is the highest in the world for
yes.
this year.
So some of it, which you said, about 4.88 lakh crores, comes from CPSC, from internal and extra budgetary resources. And internal resources includes after the dividend from profits, internal accruals.
Welcome back. You're watching our fact check segment. There's a claim suggesting tsunami hit Turkey-Syria coastline after the quake. A picture suggesting that this is the tsunami hit coastline after the massive earthquake that had hit Turkey and Syria. The fact check on that: there's been no tsunami. It's an old video of 2007. With that, I want to go into a quick break. To stay with us on the other sides to the point.
Sent across a team of personnel, sir, to Turkey as we speak, to Syria as well. Can you give us a sense of what kind of relief and rescue work your officials will be engaged in?
We have deployed 2 teams of rescuers. Each team is of 50 rescuers. First is 51, second is 50. They are basically trained for collapsed structures, search and rescue, or urban search and rescue. So they have the expertise of getting into collapsed structures and extricating victims so that lives can be saved. They also have the expertise of rope rescue in case there's a high-rise building and people need to be brought down in a safe manner. That expertise and equipment is also available with them.
Sir, considering that the NDRF has been a part of many such rescue efforts, rehabilitation efforts with building collapses here in the country, internationally as well, several such efforts, what are the challenges that you see in this particular case, in the rescue efforts currently underway in Turkey?
The first challenge is that the damage is very widespread. So they will need a lot of teams to work there. I'm sure Turkey is getting a lot of international assistance as well from other countries. The golden hour for saving lives in such situations is first 3 or 4 days. So a lot of work needs to be done to ensure that we can reach all the live victims as soon as possible. So that will require painstaking, non-stop work. So the teams are prepared for that. They have been practicing these kind of situations. So hopefully wherever they deploy us, we should be able to contribute to saving lives.
Mr. Karwal, is there a challenge, however, for the NDRF personnel to reach some of these spots? Because from what we're being told, there is an issue in reaching some of the worst hit parts of Turkey currently.
We were in touch with the Turkish government and also the embassy there. So in anticipation of this kind of a problem, we have carried our own transportation. The Indian Air Force was good enough to transport our vehicles with us. So the first team has 3 vehicles. The second has 4 vehicles. And if we need, we'll send more vehicles there so that we are completely self-sufficient and we don't depend on the local infrastructure for even our lodging and boarding. We are carrying our rations, we are carrying our tentage and our own vehicles.
That's truly, truly amazing. Mr. Kharwal, my final question to you is, how often is the NDRF really engaged in these kind of international missions? Besides Turkey, I know that there have been several other such global missions that you've been a part of, especially in calamity-hit regions.
We have had the opportunity of serving in a similar manner in 3 other countries, Nepal, Bhutan, and Japan, triple tragedy. But that was a while back, and this is again something which has come up, and we are glad we would be able to help out to the extent that we can.
Mr. Atul Kharwal, thank you very much, and thank you again, sir, from all of us here in India for the work that the NDRF does. Your personnel out there very bravely now in Turkey.
PM's big political counter.
पूरा इकोसिस्टम उछल रहा था और कुछ लोग तो खुश होकर के कह रहे थे ये हुई ना बात.
The Prime Minister makes a scathing political speech.
इस बात को हम याद करें, वोट बैंक की राजनीति ने देश के सामर्थ्य को कभी-कभी बहुत बड़ा गहरा धक्का पहुंचाया है.
Attacks Rahul Gandhi but completely silent on Adani.
No, in fact, Prime Minister was shell-shocked. He was in shock and there was no answer. एक जवाब नहीं दिया प्रधानमंत्री जी ने.
Modi makes it personal, tears into Congress.
कुछ लोग अपने लिए, अपने परिवार के लिए जी रहे हैं. मोदी तो 25 करोड़ देशवासियों के परिवार का सदस्य है.
Congress calls it an election bhashan. Why no mention of Adani by PM, asks the Congress. While privilege motion moved against Rahul Gandhi. Parliament showdown top focus to the point this evening. All right, let's cut across to our political panelists this evening. Joining me is Dr. Ajoy Kumar, National Spokesperson, Congress. In a short while from now, Sanju Verma, National Spokesperson, the Bharatiya Janata Party, would also be joining us. Dr. Ajoy Kumar, the fact is, where is the proof? You know, you're contesting that some of the statements made by Rahul Gandhi on the floor of the House have been expunged. You're free to furbish the proof on this bulletin, sir. Where is the proof?
No. It's very strange, Preeti, that the whole, you are an exception, and I believe definitely. Most of them keep asking us proof, you know. The fact is that, what did we tell him? That he Prime Minister goes in the plane of Mr. Adani, and Mr. Adani goes in the plane of the Prime Minister. One. Wherever he goes, how many times, we just asked the question, how many times did he accompany the Prime Minister? How many times did he follow up with the Prime Minister? He went to Israel, the Prime Minister, then Mr. Adani goes, and then the Haifa port. So we just wanted to know. We also wanted to know how much of electoral bonds they got from the Adani group. We also said that Sri Lanka, it's on record. The chairman of the electricity board made the statement. In fact, the Bombay airport is very interesting. No businessman, the fourth point, no businessman in India is going to tell that the Prime Minister and the ED and the CBI, there's nothing at all, we didn't do under pressure. You tell me which businessman is going to do it. So our thing is very simple. That if there was any other businessman in this country, and if this data had come up through the Heidelberg report, if the SEBI had not put a higher circuit for these people, if there is adequate data to go verification on the Mauritius round tripping and shell companies, Why didn't the Prime Minister speak a single word on Adani? You know, his speech was like the chat GPT. You can put anything and you'll get back the same speech of the Prime Minister.
Dr. Kumar, I'll bring your, co-panelists into the conversation, but when proof is being asked and when you're talking about statements being expunged, number one, you said no businessman is going to come out and say that he was pressurized. Well, the fact is, whichever way you might look at it, the GVK group has rebutted Rahul Gandhi's statement and said there was no pressure. Okay. You might say that he's not going to come out and say it. I understand. That's what your point is. On the other hand, when Rahul Gandhi made a statement that a rule was changed so that Adani Enterprise could actually obtain and take over the Mumbai or the Bombay airport then. The question is very clear, sir. The rule was that, yes, one person or one enterprise cannot go ahead and take over an airport if he didn't have prior experience. But the fine print was, but can do so with a foreign partner. And that is how even the GVK group did it.
So can I answer your question?
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah. The Department of Economic Affairs, there's an Indian Express article on it, objected. The empowered committee of the secretaries changed the rules. So my question again is, oh, by the way, I changed the rule. Murder is no more a murder. You can go and murder. Mr. Modi changed the rule that anybody from BJP can murder. So tomorrow onwards, no, one second, let me complete. Sanjuji, don't be so upset with me.
Okay, Sanju Verma just joined us. Make your statement. I'll go to her. She'll have ample time. Make your statement, sir, in peace.
Okay. So my question is, Preeti, with any guy with a basic IQ will ask this question. What about the shell companies? The Forbes has said that the Adani group bought their own shares. A guy who was $8 billion in 2014 with no experience, $8 billion becomes $150 billion in 10 years. The only qualification is closeness to the Prime Minister. Second issue.
Okay.
Answer those questions. That's all on Adani. Did you go? Please answer those questions.
Okay.
What is the corporate donation? At least answer it. And he didn't even like
that.
He didn't even reply.
Dr. Ajoy Kumar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut across to Sanju Verma and I'm going to come back and ask you to answer those questions that you have raised, because clearly you have the answers to those questions that you have raised and you want the BJP to answer them. But Sanju Verma, the question I'll ask you is, all right, fiery speech by the Prime Minister, taken that he doesn't want to maybe validate the charges of Rahul Gandhi or the Congress. Many would suggest why not, because that's your primary opposition in Parliament. But on the other hand, the Adani story is playing out in public domain, ma'am. It's just not limited to the Congress or to Rahul Gandhi. Not to mention the word Adani in a 1 hour 45-minute speech.
Okay. Preeti, you've asked me a straight question without beating around the bush. Let me address the elephants in the room. As per the Congress, the elephant in the room is Adani. So now let me put out some facts, and I hope Dr. Ajay Kumar will have the gumption to digest what is coming his way, because I did not interject him. Point number one, Preeti, let's be very clear that Adani set up his commodity trading business in 1988 when Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister and Amar Singh Choudhary of the Congress was the Gujarat Chief Minister. In 1993, Adani's flagship company, Adani Enterprises, came into existence when Narasimha Rao of the Congress was the Prime Minister. There are seven publicly listed companies of Adani, out of which only two, Adani Wilmar, came into existence in 1999 when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister. And there is another one, Adani Green Energy, which came into existence in January 2016 under the aegis of Narendra Modi. 5 out of 7 publicly listed companies of the Adani Group, which means 71% of the Adani Group companies that are listed today, owe their very existence and their growth to successive erstwhile Congress dispensations. Point number one. So this whole narrative that the BJP or PM Modi is favoring Adani is a whole lot of hogwash. Point number two, lot of people have said, how did he rise in the ranks? He was placed at some 600th rank. He's become the 3rd richest in the world. I have spent donkey's years in investment banking and stock markets. And it's very important for me to mention, I also served as an associate director at JP Morgan, working with the biggest and the best. So I know how FIIs and global investors and local investors think. I'll tell you one thing, Dr. Ajay Kumar, and you can fact check me because I'm putting out factual data, not hearsay. The low of Adani in 2004, just when the Congress came to power, was 24 rupees. When the Congress demitted office in 2014, before Narendra Modi took charge, Adani stock hit a high of 497, which means between 2004 and 2014, under the Congress-led UPA, Adani's stock price went up by, listen very carefully, 1971, almost 2000%. In the last 9 years, it went up from 497 to a high of 4189 last December before the crash, which means under the Modi government, it went up basically by 743%. If you are accusing the Modi government of a 743% rise in Adani Group's market capitalization, I can accuse Rahul Gandhi of an almost 2000% jump in the market capitalization of Adani Group.
Let her finish. Okay. All right. Okay. Sanju Verma, you okay?
I did not.
Sanju Verma, you made
last point.
Okay, make your final point.
Final point.
So if you accuse the BJP of a 743% rise, I will turn around and ask you about the almost 2000% rise in Adani's stock price in the 10 years of the UPA dispensation. Now coming to the third most important point, that rules were changed. Rules were changed. Preeti, very quickly. Forget about what the GVK management said